What's up, what's up, what's up, my beautiful, glorious Dreamfasters? It is Danny Gallows, of course, who'd you think it was? And welcome back to another beautiful, glorious TV show review. Well, my friends, we have finally seen the end of Kenobi. And it will be a day long remembered. Not essentially for its greatness, but more so for all of the problems that it caused. And, just like I mentioned before, I wanted to finish the entire show. You guys know I've had a lot of issues with it. But I wanted to finish the entire show just so I had a full spectrum. And I have to say that, I remain fairly underwhelmed and very unimpressed. So I would have to say that my biggest issue with the show overall is that, the show is sold to us as obviously an Obi-Wan Kenobi and Vader show, and what we got was realistically an Obi-Wan Kenobi and Leia show with a lot of Reva and a little bit of Vader sprinkled in. And, that's fine to a certain extent because obviously you're going to need to bring in a few new characters to help push the show along, and there's nothing wrong with that. But where it starts to become a problem is where you start to shift focus away from the main characters like Vader and Kenobi and start to fill in all those gaps with unnecessary story details with fairly unnecessary characters. Now look, I'm fine, just to be clear, I'm fine with some retconning, right? Some retconning. But where it starts to become an issue is when it starts to cross the line and starts to kind of mix things up too much. And, one of the biggest problems, I think, was Leia in this show. And, I love the girl who plays Leia. She plays her perfectly. She really does bring a lot to the show. I was very impressed with her performance. But the thing is that, I thought that Leia was only going to be in the show for like the first 2 episodes, maybe a little bit of the 3rd episode, and then she's returned and that storyline is over, right? But the entire series was about Obi-Wan and Leia. The entire thing was about their adventure, and I'm not sure that they should have pushed it that far. Maybe they should have shortened that experience a little bit and given us more dark side action or something like that, because I think that it really takes away, and again, it starts to meddle in the continuity too much, because it's like when she sends that message to Obi-Wan in episode 4, why is she referencing Bail Organa and the Clone Wars instead of their adventure together? Because, I mean, Leia even calls Obi-Wan Obi-Wan at the end of the episode. She knows who he is. So it doesn't make any sense, really, when she sends that message and she's referencing Bail and the Clone Wars as if they've never met before, right? And I think that this may be just a personal gripe for me, but still, it makes things weird, because what you're doing is you're starting to change the way that we view things in the original trilogy. They're starting to alter things and mix things up just enough so that when you hear things in episode 4, you're like, does that really make sense anymore? I don't know, and that's what I didn't enjoy. Now, where people are having a huge problem with the continuity is Vader and Obi-Wan interacting. And, for me personally, I don't really see what all the uproar is about. I still stand by my claim that, Obi-Wan and Vader can interact as much as they want during this show, during the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, as long as Vader doesn't say a variation of that line, that famous line that he says to Obi-Wan in episode 4. I still stand by that claim. I don't think it's a problem that they interacted that much. I really don't. Because, you guys gotta dissect the line a little bit, right? Vader is talking about, now the circle is complete. When I left you, I was but the learner, now I am the master. But look at what was happening during the Obi-Wan show, right? Especially, obviously, during the last couple of episodes. Vader is still losing to Obi-Wan, right? He's recalling these flashbacks of them training and Obi-Wan telling him, you'll always be the Padawan. You'll always be the Padawan if you continue to act like this. And what happens? Vader continues to lose even in this show to Obi-Wan. He's still beaten down by him, right? So in a lot of the ways, even during the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, even after 10 years of Sith training, he's still the learner, because Obi-Wan is still overpowering him. Then when it gets to episode 4, right? Now Obi-Wan is an old man. Vader knows that this is the last time they will ever meet. Now the circle is complete. When I left you, I was still a learner, but now, during this time, in Episode 4, during our final meeting on the Death Star, now I am the Master. Now the circle is complete, and this is the day that you perish. So, you guys got to be able to kind of like, dissect the line a little bit, look at it from a different point of view, as we famously do all the time in Star Wars. And when you look at it like that, them interacting so much isn't a big deal. It will become a big deal if they do end up doing a season 2 or something like that, and they continue to have them interact and continue to share dialogue. Then it becomes a little bit messy. But for right now, I think it was handled completely fine. And aside from that, the retconning was all kind of handled okay. It was fine, except for some certain elements. The only thing that I really didn't understand about the show was Reva's character. Even after completing the show, even though her character did get a little better, I found myself liking her a little bit more. I still don't understand who she was, what her role was in this show, because it's very convoluted and very confusing, especially when you get to the reveals, and we'll get to that in a bit. But the only thing Reva really did for me was add unnecessary story elements in, and she also took a lot of moments away from the main character of the story, like Obi-Wan Kenobi. And a perfect example of that, one of the most ridiculous parts of the show, I thought, is that, I think it was the end of the second episode where they have that exchange where Reva informs Obi-Wan that Anakin is Vader. And I didn't really have a problem necessarily that she knew that, because obviously, as we learned, she was a Padawan who got killed by Vader, and that's how she knew. Bigger question why she's still alive, right? And Vader didn't end her, and she's going around spreading this information around the galaxy. That's the bigger question, but that's beside the point. But during that interchange, between Reva and Obi-Wan, I didn't enjoy the fact that Reva informed him, and that's the way that Obi-Wan found out, because the way that I had always envisioned it was that Obi-Wan found out from Vader directly. Like it would be a scene similar to Vader telling Luke that he's his father in Empire Strikes Back. Vader tells him directly in a very dire moment. I always imagined something like Obi-Wan and Vader talking, and Vader says something or makes a reference to something or does something that lets Obi-Wan immediately recognize it. Oh my God, that's Anakin in that suit. Anakin, is that you? You're still alive? Like, what's happened to you? I always imagined it being a dialogue between them that revealed that to Obi-Wan, and instead what we got is this ridiculous scene where Reva's, Obi-Wan, do you know Anakin's still alive? And he's done. It's just like, what was that? What were the writers thinking? It was the most uneventful, lackluster way you could possibly imagine to inform Obi-Wan that Anakin is Vader, and it was just handled so terribly. And that's what I mean, is that her character was kind of unnecessarily interjected into all of these different areas of the story where she didn't need to be, and all she did was end up taking away important moments or distracting from the main storyline. And this isn't necessarily a problem with the actress Moses Ingram herself. She does a fine job, I think, mostly fine job, but it's a problem with the writing and the execution, the structure, the building of the actual character. Because I just didn't get her character. She saw Vader kill all her friends as kids, so she becomes evil, she becomes an Inquisitor, she becomes a Jedi hunter. She does unspeakable things, she kills Jedi, all for a chance to get close to Vader. It doesn't work. And the problem is that you made her an Inquisitor. That's the problem. The Inquisitor storyline doesn't work. If you had made her an Imperial officer, it would have worked. If you had made her, I saw somebody mention a really great storyline, if you had made her like a Tusken Raider that saw her parents killed by Anakin during the events of Episode 2 and she was seeking revenge, then it works. Any other character, a bounty hunter maybe, or something like that that's working exclusively for the Empire, then it works. The problem is that you made her an Inquisitor. Her story makes no sense. And as a writer, I totally understand where they were trying to come from. Becoming evil to defeat evil, right? It's a trope in fantasy storytelling, and it works really well where you can execute it really well. But the problem is that in order to seek justice for her friends, she's killing Jedi. That's what Inquisitors do. They hunt Jedi. They're Jedi killers. That's what they are. So she's slaughtering Jedi just for a chance to get closer to Vader. It doesn't work for that particular type of character, so I just didn't get where the writers were coming from. And then, after, like 5 minutes of convincing, she agrees to help Obi-Wan, at which point she decides to finally take a stab at Vader, literally, and try to kill him, at which point Vader completely kicks her ass, which was an epic fight scene. By the way, that was awesome how Reva was using the saber and Vader was just using the Force to stop and redirect. That was so epic. That was such an awesome fight scene. So gratifying to see that. And then at which point Vader tells her that he knew about her betrayal all along and he was just using her. And so the story kind of like devolves into this messy thing where it's like you're not really sure if Reva is good, you're not sure if she's bad, you're not sure what her motivation is, you're not sure what she's doing. And then, the most ridiculous part, Vader stabs her, apparently again. I think it was the second time because they implied that she gets stabbed as a youngling, unless that was just like a creative, artistic way of kind of like showing that she was a child again in that moment. She gets stabbed, and then both Vader and the Grand Inquisitor leave her there. They can see that she's still alive, and they leave her there. If someone were to betray Vader like that, I mean, Vader wouldn't have just stabbed her, he would have beheaded her. He would have stabbed her 7 more times after that. Stomped her out like he did with Obi-Wan Kenobi to make sure she was dead before he left, but he just left her there. No, because of convenient writing, because we need to find a way to push the story forward, I will just leave her alive, and that'll give her a chance to, get up and teleport to Tatooine. Because, yeah, she really does do that. That really does happen. Literally at the start of the next episode, she just kind of appears in Tatooine. And apparently, I don't know, is she still wounded? Did she heal herself? How did she get to Tatooine? How did she secure herself a ride? How is she not dying? Maybe she is dying. I don't know. But she's just there. And then she proceeds to start to hunt down Luke Skywalker. And then the most ridiculous thing happens, apparently she's on this like redemption arc or something like that, or I don't know what it is. If it is a redemption arc or she just had a moment of weakness or something like that, but she literally has a chance to kill Luke Skywalker. And then she backs off, she doesn't do it, and then she brings Luke back to Obi-Wan and she has this big emotional moment. And, it's like, and my problem with that is that it now, again, you're changing the continuity a little bit about episode 4 because Reva could have killed Luke right there in that moment. She could have ended everything, but she didn't. She brought Luke back. So now we have episode 4 because Reva saved Luke. You see what I mean? It's like, I'm okay with retconning to a certain point, but when it starts to cross a line, when you start to change things, when you start to alter things about the storyline of episode 4, that's what I have a problem with. So now, Reva, I guess, is responsible for episode 4. It's because of her actions that now we have this continuation of the story, and I don't know, it's just meddling too much. And also, why was she even trying to kill Luke, right? And see again, it's just confusing, right? It's like, why was she even going after Luke? She had just agreed to help Obi-Wan. I thought she was on some kind of a redemption arc, or maybe she was coming back to the light or something. And then all of a sudden, she just snaps, and she goes running after Luke. Why? You're going to capture Luke and take him back to Vader as if he would ever take you back after what you just did? I mean, maybe she was actually thinking that she could go back to the Empire and like they would just take her back because she has Luke, but Vader and the Empire would never take her back. Vader would kill her on spot as soon as he saw her again. So it doesn't even make sense that she was going after Luke. It was almost like the writers kept forgetting what they were doing in a previous episode or something and just kind of like writing these stories to kind of randomly end the story with whatever they wanted to bring to the table. But the problem is that they forgot that it doesn't really fit together too well. The other big problem with the last episode is what happens between Obi-Wan and Vader. Now, the fight sequences were really, really well done. They were very gripping, they were very stunning to witness, they were well choreographed. There's a lot of cool stuff that happens during the fight that'll keep you on the edge of your seat and keep you locked in, and I thought that was handled really well. But what happens is that Obi-Wan ultimately ends up defeating Vader, right? And what was so ridiculous about it is that Obi-Wan let Vader live. Now, obviously, he does have some sympathy for Anakin, which is why he let him go, but the problem with that is that Obi-Wan also knows that Anakin is Vader, and after this, Vader is going to go back to the Empire and completely maim and destroy and keep committing mass genocide all over the galaxy. He had a chance to kill him, to end him, or at least imprison him or capture him and do something right there to stop everything. And he lets Anakin go. And Vader will just, of course, go back to being Vader. Again, not a very Jedi thing to do, right? The whole series is trying to figure out, like, where is Obi-Wan at? What is he thinking? What's going through his head? It doesn't make any sense. So, not only does it kind of undermine Vader's power and make him look a little bit weak in the original trilogy, but it also, you know, is kind of a crappy thing for Obi-Wan to have done to Luke, right? Because it's like, what he did was he just passed the burden on to Luke. He could have ended everything right there during that fight. But he passed that. Now Luke has to deal with that. Now Luke has to get trained. And again, maybe that's how the story is supposed to go. That's what the writers were thinking, is that it has a certain way that the story is supposed to go. But again, it's like it's a little bit convoluted because you're presenting, while you're writing the story the way you think it's supposed to be, you're also presenting all of these new problems that are causing people to ask questions like, wait a minute, like this doesn't make sense. Like everything that we now see in the original trilogy has been altered a little bit because of these drastic events in this Obi-Wan Kenobi series that start to make you ask a lot of questions about how solid is the continuity, how solid are our beliefs about the original trilogy, and yeah, I mean, you know, too much change is never a good thing. Oh, and what the hell, seriously, was that Ahsoka ripoff in the show when Obi-Wan knocks half of Vader's face off and we can see his eye, we can see Anakin inside that? They did that literally in Rebels. I mean, think about this, guys. Star Wars is ripping off their own TV shows. That's like reaching the end of the universe, man. It's like you're not even ripping off other sci-fi or fantasy properties, they're just ripping off their own show. And while it was a great moment, I mean, it really was cool because I think that the Obi-Wan Kenobi show expanded on that idea because we got to see the mixture of James Earl Jones' voice and Hayden Christensen's voice with the labored Vader breathing, right? And it kept going back and forth between the voices. And it was done much better, right, and expanded upon. They literally ripped off an idea from their own show. Why didn't they do something different? Why didn't you guys force yourself to think of something different other than ripping off your own show? And it's really like a perfect shining example of how lazy the story writing can be, because they just like saw something in Rebels and were just like, oh, we'll just put that in here. We'll just recreate that. We won't think of anything new. We won't force ourselves to be creative. We'll just put that exact scene in the show. And it was kind of like, it's kind of off-putting, you know? But, you know, like I mentioned, overall, the stuff between Obi-Wan and Vader, when we did get a lot of it, was handled really, really well. And then it's strange because all of the sequences between them had good writing and good, you know, execution. Right? I mean, just, you know, a perfect example is, like, I love that moment. One of my favorite lines, probably my favorite line from the whole show, is when Anakin tells Obi-Wan, you know, you didn't kill Anakin, I did. And I love that line because it works on so many levels and it hits Star Wars fans so deep, right? And so I look at moments like that and I'm like, see, there's good writing right there. There was some excellent writing right there. Where was it for the rest of the show? So that's about all I have to say for now. I mean, realistically, you know, I could ramble on and on and on about this show all day long, but, you know, I won't, because I think that I've rambled long enough, and I think you guys get my point by now. So basically, you know, in conclusion, the show is filled, really to the brim, with a lot of delicious ideas, but it collapses under the weight of its lame and lackluster storytelling. You know, the way I look at it, an analogy, a good analogy to look at it as is like a birthday cake on a table of straws, right? It's like the birthday cake is delicious, but once you start to jam your fork down into it too much, when you really start to delve into it, when you really start to overanalyze it and put some weight on it, it collapses under its own weight because there's really not that much structure or good storytelling there. So, what am I going to give for an overall score for the Obi-Wan Kenobi show? Well, we'll go with a blue belt. Yeah, really, I can't get any higher than a blue belt. You know, I'm impartial to this show. I'm middle of the road. You know, yeah, I'd say like middle of the road, definitely. You know, there's a lot of good about this show, but also equally a lot of bad about this show. And it's even worse when you can see how much potential that it had, but it just wasn't executed. They had so much there to work with, but they just didn't execute it. It was so lame. It was such a boring, bland, basic story with not a lot of challenging story writing or execution, poor structure. You know, Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen were really the only good parts about the show, and they weren't in it as much as they should be. So, you know, there's not really much to say about it. You know, I highly doubt with the reception that they've received that there'll be a season 2, and really I wouldn't want there to be a season 2 because, I mean, really, where else can you go? You can't get any closer. You really can't get any closer to the original trilogy when you're involving Obi-Wan Kenobi, so I really hope they don't go down that road, but, you know, it's Disney. They probably will, but, yeah, guys, I mean, you know, for me, this was a completely lackluster show, a forgettable show. I will not be rewatching it. There aren't any episodes that I want to revisit. You know, I'm not gonna, I don't really have any interest in continuing my journey with that show. You know, I'm more focused on my own Star Wars writing right now. But yeah, for me, this is definitely a pass, and not really interested to see what's coming down the line. Really, any shows from Disney that are coming down the line at this point, unless you hire better writers. You know what I'm saying? Alright, my friends, well, that's enough blathering from yours truly for right now. Now comes the best part of the video where I turn it over to all of you. So have you guys had a chance to finish the Obi-Wan Kenobi show yet? And if you have, leave all of your thoughts and opinions down below in the Great White Void. I love reading through all of the different opinions about the show. It's really, really fun. You know, and at this point I just say, you know, there's no point in being angry at each other anymore about Star Wars content. You know, like some people love the Disney stuff and that's fine. You know, do your thing. And some people hate the Disney Star Wars stuff. They're on the other side of that. That's fine, do your thing. It's the hate in the Star Wars community that I don't understand. Like, at this point, the community is so divided, I say just build your own canon. Like what you like, hate what you hate, but just don't be so vocal about it. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong about calling things out and about being a critic like I am and, you know, analyzing things. But the thing is like, just like what you like. Build your own canon and leave everybody else alone. You know what I mean? Like that's my personal view on it, and that's what I do myself. Like, you know, everybody hates the Solo movie for some reason. It's universally hated. I don't understand why. I love the Solo movie. It's one of the best Star Wars films that Disney's put out aside from Rogue One. I freaking love that movie, right? But nobody else seems to like it. But I don't care. I'm not, you know, I'm not going around hating on people who dislike the Solo film or don't want to like it. All I know is that I like the Solo film. That's part of my canon. So I like it, and that's what I watch, and that's what I like to enjoy, and that's what I think everyone should start to, you know, realize is that, you know, just do your own thing and be happy being you as whatever Star Wars fan you want to be. So rant over, leave all your thoughts and opinions now down below in the Great White Void. And as always, until next week, guys, take care, and I'll see you guys back here for the next video very soon. Later.